Welcome back to FiddleUP. I'm Emerald Ray, and today we're going to talk about how to stay inspired. So inspiration is like that muse, You have to, it's like that creativity, that muse of creativity. You have to keep in touch with it. You have to keep it warm. You have to stay inspired all the time. And that can be difficult when you have a lifestyle that is as chaotic as playing music. There's a lot of things that can distract you and wear you down and make you tired. And then you kind of feel, you can just kind of go through ruts. It's easy to do in life if there's something going on in your life. And, you just want to make sure that you stay in touch with your own personal inspiration, because that is kind of, the beating heart, the little burning embers that are in there, that give you the energy to keep moving forward. And so things that I do to help myself stay inspired are, I like to listen to a really wide palette of music. Like, I listen to the weirdest stuff. And you don't have to listen to weird stuff like I do. But, just experiencing a lot of different types of music and um, allowing it to kind of come in and wash over you and see how it makes you feel is a wonderful way to stay inspired. You can, even if it's not a music that you tend to gravitate towards, everybody's got certain types of music where they're like, I don't really like that. But maybe you like this one artist that is doing something really unique, and, so maybe it's like, I really, examples like I really, and this isn't me, but if you were the type of person who doesn't like metal, but you really love Motorhead for some reason, and you can't really explain why. It's there are so many different onion layers to musical inspiration, and I feel like things like genre are very kind of superficial layers, when it gets down to the heart of the artist and their story and where they're coming from and the message that they're giving. There's just so many onion layers that you can peel back. So listening to a wide palette of music gives me a wide perspective on just the world of music. And I feel like I can connect with all these different kinds of music, even though I don't, I don't play that style of music, or, it's not something that I usually listen to. I'm like, oh, but I love those lyrics, or I love that thing that they're doing, or man, I love that reverb that they're using, or just anything from the techie nerdy stuff all the way down to the musicality. It's just listening to all different types of music is automatically going to inspire your creativity. It's gonna perk your ears up and get your brain making new connections all the time. Your music is making you think about things in a different way all the time, whether you know it or not. It's influencing your emotions quite significantly. So if you're listening to music and it's moving you in a certain way, or it's making you feel something, it's always a good opportunity to go, why is it making me feel that? What's going on? Is it the tuba? And just picking apart and analyzing other people's music, what you love about it, maybe what you don't love about it, is a great process. And I'm sure it's something that you do naturally all the time anyway. I'm sure you know what your tastes and distastes are at this point. So this is not me telling you anything new, but it's giving you a good listen to a good reason to get out of your listening comfort zone a little bit. I think that's a good way to stay inspired, is to be challenging your ear in different directions, for sure. And the other thing you can be inspired by is just life. And this is going to sound really cheesy. Like, I almost didn't put this in because it just sounds really lame, but it really is true. I actually was, feeling a little bit stuck a little while ago, and, sitting here recording all these videos and kind of doing this a little bit off the cuff. And, I needed my inspiration for ideas to start flowing. I needed to get in flow again. So I just went outside and went for a nice walk out on this beautiful day. It's really sunny outside. And I feel like I've been talking so much, it's a little stuffy in the studio. I've sucked up all the oxygen. So going for a walk outside and hearing the birds singing and the brook going by. I live out in Vermont, so it's like this beautiful picturesque country. And just being inspired and getting some new oxygen in my lungs, and inspired by all the sights and sounds, and just that beautiful water. The sound of water flowing is very cleansing for your ears. Like it's like sort of like a sonic cleanse. So I love to go stand by a waterfall or stand by a brook, or stand by the ocean, and just have that just kind of clear out my ears. And I feel like when I go do that and then I come back to work, I feel like I'm inspired because I just sort of everything sort of cleared out a little bit. So things like that help to get you in an inspired frame of mind. You can be inspired by especially if you're writing songs or writing tunes, you can be inspired by any little thing that happens in your daily life, any little situation, any little thing that gives you an idea in your regular life. The great artists of the world are always the people who can see great beauty in a tiny object, and that's just such a universal thing. That the more you can see in this coffee mug, the more creativity and insight you have. So just spending some time being inspired by your environment, or creating an inspiring environment around you, is a good way to keep yourself inspired, for sure. So another thing that helps you stay inspired is making sure you have room for growth. And so making sure you have big goals, like making sure you're not just sort of trudging the same path. I feel like artists get really worn down by feeling like things are too repetitive, like you're just kind of doing the same thing over and over again. Artists are not good with that. That's kind of people who are good at sustaining and good as managers and things like that are very good at that kind of maintenance. And people who are creative types, we got to keep pushing the envelope all the time. We get bored. So if you're that type of person, don't feel bad. It just means that you need to be looking down the road a little further and thinking about, where am I going next with this? I'm feeling like I'm in a rut, and just feeling like you have the room to push yourself to the next level, and you have the idea of how to get there, and you're planning for the future, and you're going to be keep going up and up and up, all the steps of the pyramid. Feeling like you can see far out, is really calming, I think, for the soul. Feeling like you have somewhere to go and ideas of things to do, and you're kind of slowly moving in an upward trajectory, as much as progress is not a straight line. If you're kind of you have big plans, that's very inspiring to have big plans. So go ahead and dream big. Why not? It's not silly. You can actually make bigger steps by seeing how far you can step, instead of just, keeping everything a little bit too close. Just kind of send your fishing line out a little further. So the last but not least is something that I feel like artists struggle with every once in a while. It's not a frequent thing. It's kind of an every once in a while, and it almost kind of comes on as a crisis. And I just wanted to talk about this a little bit in case this happens to you, because it's happened to me. And that is needing to take a break from music. I actually had a professor when I was at music school who said something great. And I went to Berklee College of Music. I went to jazz school, so I was studying with all these jazz dudes who'd been around for a really long time. And so this guy said something brilliant. He said, practice and learn all your chops, and learn them real good, and then put your instrument away and just go live life for a couple years. So, his suggestion was to do Berklee and then put my fiddle in a closet for 2 years and just go backpacking around Europe. And obviously, that is not practical, but just the idea of it was like, it stuck with me all this time, because I think that's so important to remember, that the music part is only half of the music. You know what I mean? You have all of this soul and life experience and all of this personal journey that has to happen too for your music to keep going. And I think especially in this day and age, like, artists don't give themselves enough space to have some personal journey. It's really hard to squeeze in between your gigs, let's put it that way. Between shooting all your videos and playing your gigs and having things, be as chaotic as they sometimes are. It's hard to remember that the personal journey is part of the musical journey. So taking breaks is a really good thing to do. And I don't mean just taking a break and going for a walk. I mean taking a long break, maybe. And maybe taking a break from playing your fiddle for a while. I actually went through this period for a few years where I just didn't want to play the fiddle anymore. And it was really scary. And I kept playing the fiddle. I kept playing the fiddle. I kept doing my gigs. I kept booking gigs. I kept going but I was like I was not feeling it anymore. Like, something had to change. And it took me a while to figure out what that was. So what I did was I kept doing my gigs, but I stopped practicing. And I stopped practicing at all unless I absolutely had to like rehearse something. But I wasn't sitting around practicing like I had been. My practice disappeared. And I started working on guitar. Where are they? Guitars. I started playing guitar, and I just played guitar. And then all of a sudden I was like bringing my guitar to the session, almost instead of my fiddle. I didn't want to play my fiddle in the session anymore. So I started playing a lot of guitar. And I loved doing that. And I loved just being the guitar player. And I was teaching dance at the same time too. I loved going and just doing a gig where I was just the dancer. I was begging people to not make me play the fiddle. Which of course didn't work, because when you play the fiddle and you dance and you sing, everybody wants you to do all the things. But I was like, please, can I just be the dancer for this gig? And I just let myself be in that space for a while. Like, I just wasn't feeling it. And it was scary at the time because I didn't know what was happening. But I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go with the flow here. I think I recognized it as a creative journey thing. And, like I say, I was glad that professor at Berklee had said that. I almost kind of felt like this was somehow part of the journey. And it turns out that it was. So I was, sick of the fiddle for a solid couple of years. Yeah, but I got pretty good at the guitar, and I was playing, I was backing people up in sessions and doing all this stuff. And then, things happened in life, and, things got shuffled, and I wound up, I was doing all these early solo shows as well, where I was playing the guitar and playing the fiddle, and I had this Welsh crwth as well, this really weird fiddle that's like a bowed lyre. So I was lugging all these instruments because I didn't want to play fiddle the whole time in my solo shows. And then at some point after that, something clicked in me, where I realized I do want to play the fiddle. I just want to do guitar stuff on the fiddle. Like, I love harmony. I love a fiddle accompaniment, which I had been doing too, but not quite in the same way. I kind of had a click moment here. And I was able to figure out how to bring all of that guitar energy into the fiddle. And that's how I ended up developing my own style of fiddle singing, and I kind of just do guitar tricks on the fiddle, and that's when I figured out how to do this like flamenco style slappy thing. And because I have so much strumming power, you know, when I strum the fiddle, it sounds like a real, you know, it sounds like a real strum, you know. So, and the way I started bowing my fiddle, you know, was more guitar strummy. So there was just all of this great stuff that I had learned from the guitar that I brought into my fiddling again when things kind of finally merged back together in my mind. And it totally took my fiddle playing to the next level. It really did. It really kind of gave me all of these new things. And now I love playing the fiddle again. I love it even more. So, you know, sometimes you have to go on a little tangent. Sometimes you have to take a break and go on a little side journey for a little while and then come back and you know, figure out how to add something, because it's easy to get creatively bored. So if you're in that mode of, yeah, oh, I'm just not feeling, I'm stuck in a rut, yada, da, 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 then go do something else and do it all the way. And that doesn't mean don't turn up to your gigs or stop playing the fiddle. Like, play the fiddle, but you know, your mind's going to be busy elsewhere for a little bit, and who knows how long that's going to take. So I hope this video will help you stay inspired for the long haul, and I will see you in the next video.